So on this particular night, he's at home, and he's just come back from one of his benders, and we're sitting in the living room, and he pours me a drink, and he produces this bag of cocaine, like nothing you've seen in your life, dumps it on the coffee table. He eventually passes out, and I muster up the bravado to go out to the car, and with the torch in the dark, opens up the glove compartment, and I find all these burner phones and switch them on. And obviously to drug dealers, you got bags, and then it was to prostitutes. If you got the money, swing by. My hand comes across this item, it's wrapped in a pillowcase, and I pull it out, and it is what I think it is. It's a handgun.
The woman herself, Doreen Noble, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Jim.
It's a great pleasure having you in the studio.
Thank you.
You come with an unbelievable story.
I do indeed.
You've got your book with you today.
Yes.
So before we go into this amazing story of yours, if you can speak me through the book and where it's available. This
is the book here, Bankrupt, Coked Up and Fucked Up, guys. And it's my story. It's a very chaotic story. It's about, it starts with a very chaotic upbringing. There's generational trauma there. My father was an alcoholic. My mother was emotionally unavailable. And it just lets you see how my nervous system was wired to attract sociopaths and narcissists, and it takes you on a very chaotic journey. And I'm sure it's all going to unfurl as we carry on.
Well, you're definitely the right character for the show. As I said, I'm looking forward to going through the story with you.
Thank you.
Especially the chaotic part.
The very chaotic part.
And
yeah.
But before we actually go right into it, I know there was also talk of doing like a TV show or a movie about your story.
Well, what happened was I initially started writing about my story about, oh my goodness, like 15 years ago. And it was actually in a blog form. And there was TV producers got wind of it, and I actually met with them because they wanted to turn it into a TV series. But at the time, there was a lot of legalities around it. I was going through a very high-profile divorce in the Court of Session in Edinburgh, my 3.5 million divorce. So they didn't want anybody circling from TV. Being brought into the mix. It was already high-profile enough. It was in every newspaper there was. Every other week I was there. So yeah, they just took a step back, and I didn't do anything with it, and I left it. And then I went on to write the book about 10 years ago. I trauma dumped it though. It was a bit heavy, and after I wrote it, I kind of had a nervous breakdown, and I've just recently rewrote it after 15 years. And like I said, it's here, and it's available on Amazon, guys. Bankrupt, Coked Up and Fucked Up. And so this is why I've been invited here today to speak about it.
But like I said, it's going to be a great pleasure going through, because there's loads of chaos in here.
Oh, there is indeed.
Loads of trauma. But there's also lots of like dark humour as well. There's lots of comedy in it.
There is,
like I said, you're such a character. So if you don't mind now, Doreen,
yes,
I'll now take you back to like your early memories, your first chapter in childhood, really.
Like I says, my father was an alcoholic. My mum was emotionally unavailable. We moved around all the time. I think I'd moved about 10 houses by the time I was 10 years old. We had no family relatives around us. I had no friends. I pretty much brought myself up. I was a latchkey kid. Every time I moved school, everyone had already made their friends. So I was always the outsider looking in, it was really difficult forming friendships with people. We moved from, I think it was England to Scotland around about the time I was primary 7. And I did my secondary school in Scotland. And I think I got married. I got engaged at 15. Schooling wasn't for me. I think I have got ADHD traits. I am being tested for that just now as we speak. Schooling wasn't really for me, so I thought I would just decide to get married instead. I think at 18 I got married, and I couldn't stay there.
But even before that, I know with a traumatic childhood, like you would move house more than 10 times.
Yeah.
The relationship between your mum and dad was very toxic.
Yes,
so it was,
very.
that's an early trauma for you that you would then carry in, as you said. So then you get engaged at 15.
Yeah, well, what happens is in situations like that, your nervous system becomes wired for chaos. So that's your baseline, that's your go-to. And that's why people say, oh, she always attracts drama, her. She always attracts trauma, her. You can't help it. If you've been indoctrinated from an early age, that's what your nervous system seeks out, is chaos. And anything calm is like, whoa, that's not safe. That's not safe. So when I got married at 18 to the very safe guy, the guy, his family were lovely. His mother taught me how to sew and cook and make Yorkshire puddings at Rose, and we would knit in silence. And I'm like, this is too weird. I can't stay here. I've arrived in someone else's world, and this is alien to me. I can't stay here. So I self-sabotaged, and we got divorced after a few years.
So I think you're around about age 20, 21.
Yeah.
As you said, you leave the safety and the calmness of that relationship, loving family behind. And then you would then go on your chaotic journey.
I would go on my chaotic journey. We got a divorce. We sold all our worldly possessions, our furniture and whatnot. And I did my RGIT. It's the survival certificate to go offshore. And I went offshore at about that age. And yes, it was a cesspit of undesirables out there.
See, before you go offshore, are you working as a kissogram and things like that?
Yes, I start doing kissograms round about the time I go offshore. So I would do my 2 weeks on the oil rig. Then I would come home and I would do kissograms. I would do go-go dancing in the bars in Aberdeen. And I think I even did some men's magazines.
How did you end up offshore?
How did I end up offshore? My dad was a journalist, actually, at the time, and he'd actually done an article on the survival centre in Aberdeen. I was like, I can do that. He's a job. I can do that. So off I trotted. And yeah.
And while you were working there, you told me a comical story that because of the magazines, the top shelf magazines you were in, there was actually photos up in the...
Yeah, I'd go in, and obviously I was a stewardess. I'd be cleaning the rooms, and I'd come across men's magazines in their cabins, and I'm picking them up and flicking through them. I'm going, no, can't be me. I was, they turned up in the most... bizarre places, so to speak.
Is this in the early 90s?
It was in the early 90s, and they wouldn't get away with what they... Nowadays, they wouldn't get away with what they got up to back then. It would be classed as sexual harassment. I mean, you'd go into your bunk at night and there'd be guys in your bunk, or you'd go onto the sunbed and the next minute there'd be Polaroids of you all dotted along the rig, It was just pure harassment,
Is this the leather and lace thing that you were involved in? Is that private shows?
No, Leather and Lace comes after I leave offshore.
Oh, I saw it, right, okay.
So, whilst I was on the oil rig, this guy comes onto the oil rig. Now, he didn't work there, but his helicopter had come onto my oil rig to refuel. And he was like a Glaswegian James Bond. He's like, all right, hen, you fancy going on holiday when you come off of here? And I'm like, I don't think I even looked up. I went, aye, why not? Wired for chaos. I mean, who even does that?
So you just jumped straight into the helicopter with him?
No.
No, that would be a great scene for the movie.
No. See you later, boys. I'm away.
Picture that scene. So you ended up, obviously...
I did. He went away home, and a couple of days later I got off, and we both went on holiday. We went to Greece together. And I ended up in a relationship with him. It's... Yeah, it's quite volatile. He's pretty dysfunctional as well. He has a drinking problem, very much like my father. And that was the pull. He was familiar.
You definitely attract it.
Yeah. So I was with him for a wee while. I fall pregnant. I obviously can't go back offshore. I have the baby, and I can't go back offshore. So I start. I see this advert for this dance group in a newspaper called Leather and Lace. So
and it's like
I think I was the only one that applied.
Is it like private shows then? What was
there was private shows, but we were a dance troupe, and we would go around, Scotland doing shows. We were supposed to be strippers, but I was the only one that would take my clothes off. One of them wouldn't even take her coat off. So I was thrown at the deep end. So
how long did that last, Doreen?
Probably about a year. But after that, and I started getting my own work and getting work through agents as well. And I would travel all over Scotland doing work.
There's a very important part of the story.
Yeah.
This will open the door for it.
Okay.
Because I know you would then meet the character in the book, Agent of Chaos.
Agent of Chaos.
In a bar. How did that happen?
So, right, what happens is I'm still with the Glaswegian James Bond. I can't stay there. The relationships become very toxic. He doesn't like me stripping, and he likes the money, but he becomes very jealous. One day I come home and all my makeup's down the toilet. And I was like, I can't take any more of this. And he's starting to put his hands on me as well. So he literally throws me out of the flat that I've bought. I go back home to stay with my mum. By this time, she's living by herself. She's not in a good place mentally, So I kind of go home and I stay with her. And then I start stripping in the bars in Aberdeen. So I come from Glasgow to Aberdeen. And on this particular night, I've got a gig, and it's a stag do for a guy. And Agent of Chaos is there in the audience, and he doesn't approach me. He gets one of his emissaries, or minions, I should say, to approach me. And I don't normally give out my telephone number. I always, as a safety policy, I always change the last few digits. But on this occasion, I gave him my telephone number. And about 3:00 in the morning, I get this phone call, and it's him. And he's asking me to go on a date with him. So I do. And my life will never be the same again.
That's what I mean. And it's decades with all these crazy stories. So how did it start then? Was it okay at the start? Like the Agent of Chaos, was he a nice guy? Or
no, not really. There were red flags were waving to start with, but I didn't see them because chaos was my baseline. So I didn't see them. I spoke to I worked for an agent in Aberdeen. He also ran escorts out of Aberdeen. So, prostitutes for anybody that was anybody. And apparently Agent of Chaos was one of his clients. And he told me this. And I just ignored it. And another guy told me that he frequented prostitutes and he'd seen Agent of Chaos's car down at the harbour. That's where the prostitutes frequent in Aberdeen. And I still didn't.
As you said,
take it on board.
You're drawn to the chaos.
Drawn to the chaos.
But I know you would become very jealous as well of you being a stripper, so you would try and change that job, and you became a singer. A
singer, yeah, but he didn't like it either because obviously I'm frequenting the bars that he's frequenting, and he's living this double life, and he doesn't want me on his turf, so he sells all the equipment, and I'm just to be a stay-at-home person, so... From the get-go, my independence is stripped away, so I'm completely dependent on him.
And there's a story in the book because it would become very toxic.
Very toxic, very quickly. And that's another sign for women out there. If someone moves very quickly, a sociopath, which are pretty rare, but narcissists, they usually get the engagement ring on you very quickly. It was a matter of weeks. And he got the engagement ring on my finger. And they do that for a reason. They do it before the mask slips. So they've got you locked down.
So you were engaged very quickly?
Very quickly, yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's a story in the book and I'm trying to remember the chapter, but it's like black bags.
Oh, yeah.
B&Bs, I don't want to say the word.
Yeah.
Can you talk us through that story?
So, yeah. So
I think it was one in the casino, was the incident.
I fall pregnant to him. I think and he doesn't like it. Sociopaths and narcissists don't like it when their partners get pregnant because the focus isn't on them, the attention isn't on them. So he gets quite nasty. He throws me out. He tells me I've got to pack my bags and go. I pack a bag and I do go, and I end up in a bed and breakfast with my daughter. It's pretty sad, really. I think later on he puts all my clothes and cuts up all my clothes, him and his mother, and throws them into black bags and dumps them at the bed and breakfast door. And that's me taken care of. I have a termination, which is not one of the better parts of my life. And and my friend approaches me, she says, Doreen, you've been so down, let's go on a night out. And we end up going on a night out. And he turns up at the place that we're at, but he's with his new clique, his new squeeze. And he sees me all dressed up and looking good, and he's as jealous as hell, and he launches at me and wallops me, and his manager intervenes. My agent of chaos, he runs an oil service company, so he has a manager running his operations. He intervenes, he stops it, and then he says, oh, come outside, I really need to speak to you, this has ended really badly. And like a fool, I go outside. I mean, who even does that? But yeah, I go out. And then the next minute I'm driving him home, and he's like, I know you still love me, prove it, prove it. I'm like, oh, for goodness sake, I've just had a termination here. Prove it? No, I don't think so. So I relent, and I end up giving him a BJ in the driveway. And I feel really nasty and dirty afterwards. And then he just dismisses me. Off you trot, he says, I'll give you a call in the morning. And just like that,
That's what I mean. And it's that
just
form
like
of
just
control
like
as well. Do you end up back in with him then?
Yeah, I do. He calls me in the morning, and I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that he's called me.
So then you're back in this relationship.
I'm back on I'm back on the treadmill, yeah.
And this is where, because later on in the story, he becomes a right international fugitive.
He does indeed.
But there's a story there where he's trying his best then to keep you there. And it's like coming up with stories of the cancer card.
Yeah, well, we end up, not long after that, a few months later, we end up getting married. And it's like, oh, we're going to go on honeymoon, and I'm a reformed character, and I'm going to do this, and da-da-da-da. But he doesn't. We get married, and the day after I've been married, he goes, I've got a surprise for you. I'm like, oh, fuck's sake, what now? And I go home, there's a white BMW in the driveway, and I'm like, oh, lovely. And the gift of disappointment, what is it? So, oh, we're not going on honeymoon, darling. I've got to go away to Amsterdam on a business trip.
We know what type of business trip that'll be.
Yeah, I know. I later find out that it's a sociopathic trait. When narcissists or sociopath get married, they do a little protest to the world, and they say things like, just because I'm married, bitch, I'm still going to do what I want to do, and to hell with you, kind of thing.
Was he very violent towards you as well?
Yes,
while you were pregnant?
Yes, he was, yes.
That must have been difficult.
It was. So he goes away on he has his little jolly, he comes back, and we decide to move house because he needs to get me, he needs to isolate me further, and I need to be taken away to the middle of nowhere. So he buys this big house in the middle of nowhere. I'm like fucking Rapunzel in the tower, and I'm cut off from people, and no family, no friends. I'm erased very quickly, actually. I'm not on the mortgage. Well, I'm not on the mortgage. I'm not on the bank account. I'm not on the utility bills. And I'm very early on, he actually has me made bankrupt very quickly. So any marital assets are all completely in his name.
There's a chapter in the book, and it's called Lines, Lies and Loaded Guns.
Yeah, there is, yeah. And also obviously the title of the book is Bankrupt, Coked Up and Fucked Up. So it's me being bankrupt twice for debts that doesn't exist. So like I says, I'm bankrupt pretty early on in the relationship, and then I will be bankrupt again for the second time later on towards the end of the story too, you know.
And there's a lot of drugs involved as well.
There's a lot of drugs involved. So what would happen is, you know, I'm taken to the big house in the country. I fall pregnant again, and I know it's not going to end well. It is not going to end well. And right about that time, he has a birthday party. It's a 40th birthday party, and it's in the newspaper. And this woman appears out of the woodwork, out of nowhere, and she says she's had a relationship with him years ago, and he has a child that he doesn't know about. And it tips him over the edge, and he starts drinking, and the drugs heavy again, you know. And then obviously I'm pregnant, and he's like, he disappears for the whole 9 months of the pregnancy. He disappears, you know. And before he goes, like, he batters me stupid, you know, because he'd been on a particular night out, and he'd come home late, and I'd been pacing the floor, and I was like, where have you been? He says, well, you fucking know where I've been, because you've been on the phone to my taxi company. He had an account with this taxi company, and he'd been dropped off at a bed and breakfast where the strippers all hung out. So yeah, he knows I know where he's been. Comes home, attacks me, batters me. He leaves me for 9 months. I'm left in that house with no money. I think I had about £1,000. That's to last me 9 months. And yeah, he disappears for 9 months away on a little jolly bender, you know.
When does a private investigator come in?
Well, I haven't seen hide nor hair of him for about 6 months. And I've got this £1,000, and it's not lasting very long. I think I've got a couple of £100 left. And I think I used £100 of it to hire a private investigator. And they track him down to this hotel that he's staying in with this lap dancer called Silver. He says she's got a head like a broth pot. I'm like, okay.
And then eventually, when he does come back, there's another story of carnage and chaos, because you are then going through the car and the glove box.
Yes.
And you start to unravel this crazy life of...
I do. I go to this, while he's away, I go to this psychic, and she says to me, you're with this man? And I'm like, yeah. She goes, he's a very dangerous man. And I was like, I suppose he is. And she says, but there's lots you don't know about him. He's living a double life. And I was like, you could say that. And he says, he takes cocaine. I says, yeah, I gathered that. And she says, in copious amounts. Okay. And she goes, and there's a gun. I was like, okay. So on this particular night, he's at home, and he'd just come back from one of his benders, and we're sitting in the living room, and he pours me a drink, and he produces this bag of cocaine, like nothing you've seen in your life, dumps it on the coffee table, starts cutting up lines, and he's, you know, I have partake as well, obviously, and he eventually passes out, and I muster up the bravado to go out to the car, and with the torch in the dark, open the car, shaking, you know, and opens up the glove compartment, and I find all these burner phones and switch them on, and obviously to drug dealers, you got bags, and then it was to prostitutes, if you got the money, swing by, and one was to, you know, obviously someone that he was having an affair with, darling, and kisses and whatnot. And then my hand comes across this item, you know, it's wrapped in a pillowcase, and I pull it out, and it is what I think it is. It's a handgun. And with that, he obviously sees the light. He comes out, sees me in the driveway. He attacks me, throws me to the ground, starts kicking me, grabs the gun, puts it to my head, and then I'm like, please, God, just make it quick. And he just starts laughing, you know, like a maniac. He says, I don't have to kill you to kill you. And then with that, he's gone. Poof. You know?
And again, you're left to pick up the pieces.
For months. He's gone to his drinking drug bender for months. I'm left there.
Then when he comes back, I know the story would go on another crazy journey, because you would then move abroad. We went to Abu Dhabi to live. You know, he set up. He had operations in Kazakhstan, and I think he had in Norway, and he would set up an operation in Dubai initially, and then Abu Dhabi, because that's the oil city. Were you like a bit of a prisoner over there as well? I was. Everybody thought I had this glamorous lifestyle, but I didn't. Because everybody had been warned, all the expat wives and that had been warned not to go near me, so I was completely isolated again, you know. And I'm pregnant again as well, with my youngest son. So yeah, I'm a pretty much recluse. What about the plastic surgery? Did that happen over there? Yeah, I developed a plastic surgery addiction as well when I was out there, because I mean I was always, you know, I thought I was the problem. I needed to fix myself. And he liked it as well, because he's seen it as a, you know, get me out of the way. He could go on a fuck fest kind of thing, you know. I'm in the hospital for days at a time, so he could do whatever he liked. I mean, I did get asked on nights out with him, but they were few and far between. I remember we'd gotten invited to a wedding in Dubai. It was a very plush event in Dubai, and the champagne was flowing, and I was feeling a bit lightheaded, but I was like, God, this has hit me really quick. And the next minute, I'm standing up. They're giving speeches at the wedding. I'm like, hey, you're a effing minker, and you're a effing minker, and I've never liked you, and you're a this, and this one doesn't like you, and everyone speaks about you. And I'm like, oh my God. And with that, I just kind of passed out. Was he not drugging you as well? Is it Xanax? I'd found out he'd put Xanax in my drink, and he dragged me off to the toilet, and I remember sitting on the toilet. I must have sat on that toilet for 6 hours. I couldn't move. I was just like comatose. I just like frozen in this one place. I couldn't move. And then when he did take me home the next day, he says, that was the right state you were in. I says, I know, it was terrible. The drink just hit me really quick. The champagne, the heat, you know, we're in Dubai. He says, yes. He says, you must have took one of your tablets. I says, no, I didn't. He says, yes, you did. I remember you saying you'd taken one of the tablets because you thought you were going to have a panic attack. I was like, no, I wouldn't mix drink with the tablets. No, I wouldn't do that. How long were you living abroad for? I think we were there for about 8 years, 10 years, yeah. That long? It was, yeah. See, when you went back home? Yes, I'd had enough. I couldn't take any more. I think the final nail in the coffin was he'd been out on a business night out, and I had found receipts for hotel rooms in his back pocket, and he swore to me it was a bunch of accountants had come over for the UK, and he'd paid for hookers for them, and it was nothing to do with him. Okay, but I was like, I can't do this anymore, and I just. But at that point, he's like, I says, I don't want to live here. He says, well, we'll build a house in Cyprus. We'll build a villa in Cyprus, and it's nearer the UK, and you don't have to stay here if you don't want. So, all right, okay, whatever. So I flew back to the UK, and I was like, I'm just going to stay here until such time. And he stayed out there. And he did come home. He would come back and forth. Did he have a new girlfriend? Was it a Russian hooker? He had the Russian hooker. I remember him coming home. It was Christmas, and he was acting really oddly, and I knew he was up to no good. And it was my 40th birthday, and he ended up attacking me, strangling me, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. you told me a story where your son was actually kidnapped.
Yes, I'd come back to the UK. He'd eventually come back. He was up to no good. I knew by the way he was conducting himself, he was having an affair. Turns out she was the Russian prostitute. And as I says, we were building the villa in Cyprus, and he says to me, well, I've got to go back to Abu Dhabi. He says, I'll tell you what, I'll take back our son with us. He's not getting on very well at school, and he's not missing anything, so he'd just be as well coming back with me, and I could get him some, tutoring when he's out there. And I wasn't very keen on it because I knew he was up to no good, and he'd taken my son as leverage, and he says, I'll meet you out in Cyprus and we'll go and see how the villa's getting on with the builders and whatnot. And I'll meet you in a couple of weeks. Well, I went to do that. I went to meet him in a couple of weeks' time, but the passports had disappeared. He'd gotten rid of the passports. So I had to apply for a passport, and I think it was weeks and weeks and weeks before I could actually book something. But then I don't know what happened. He got really quite nasty, and I think in between that time, I says, "That's it. I just can't do it." I think I'd gone to see a solicitor to see what my rights were, and I says, "You're going to need to send Kirkton back," and he refused to give him back. And I think he was out there for about 6-7 months. He had him out there and wouldn't give him back. And I think at this point I was getting really anxious, and I phoned the police out there, and I says, my husband's got my son out there and he won't give him back. And I says, can you help me? And they just says, well, he's the father. It's his prerogative.
So then you would then need to use your intelligence and play along. My
guile, yes.
What did you do?
Well, I backtracked, and I says, I was maybe a bit hasty. I shouldn't have gone to see the solicitor, and we don't need a divorce, and I'm sure we can work this out, and I can meet you in Cyprus, and he's like, okay then, all right then. So I flew out to Cyprus, and he wasn't taken in by it. He was on his guard, and he actually wouldn't get out of the car when I flew there. And he stayed in the car. I was with my mum and my daughter and my son. And he stayed in the car. He wouldn't get out. And I says, are you not going to get out of the car? No, you can go and stay in the hotel. And this went on for days. And I says, can I see my son? No, you just need to get off the effing island. I'm going to kill you. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I was like, well, there's not much point in me being here. I'm just going to go back. And I think about 4 or 5 days, and he relented and he let me see my son, and he was okay. And he says, you don't need to stay at the hotel. You can come and stay at the villa with us. But he was still being really cagey. And my son kept saying, I want to come home, Mum. I want to get my Xbox and my computer and this and that. And I kept saying to him, can he come home? Can he come home? And he's like, no, he can't. And his passports was locked up in a safe, and he wouldn't give me them. And this went on for weeks. We were out there. And I think eventually he did relent. He says, right, he can come home. He can get his Xbox and his computer, and you need to come straight back here. And I was like, and then he relented again. And I was like, oh, for goodness sake. And I think at one point I even got his initials tattooed on my wrist to prove, I'm still under your, control, yes, sir, no, sir, free bags full, sir, kind of thing. And he was all right with that. And he relented and let us go. And see, when I got on that flight, I'd never been so relieved in my life. But I'm telling you, being married to a sociopath and trying to divorce one is another level. Being married to him was actually the easy bit. See, try to divorce him, every dirty trick in the book.
You would then have a bit of a break from him, and you would get a new boyfriend.
I would get a new boyfriend.
This time, the narcissist. Is that right?
No. I don't think. He wasn't even labelled him. He was just in between the narcissist. He was just a bit of fun, and I really liked him, but he had a bit of a drink problem as well.
So that was the other boyfriend before that, Jim. Keep up with the story.
I know. It's so chaotic, isn't it, the timeline?
So who was the new boyfriend at that time?
Yeah, it was Michael, and he had a bit of a drink problem as well. And he just lived next to me. So it was just handy. And he just split up with this girlfriend. She was crazy. I think she swung both ways. And at one point she even says, "Can I be in on the act?" Really?
So he was a nice guy, but there was chaos surrounding him as well. Very
much, yeah, chaos. I mean, she tried to drive me off the road, this girl. I was walking out past my house with a dog, and she drove her car at me. And I remember him taking me away on holiday, and she'd phoned the airport, and the drugs, the narcotic squad were waiting there to give me an internal in all cavities because she says I was trafficking cocaine. So yeah, it was very chaotic.
How long did that last?
Probably not even a year. I worked, and I think the final nail in the coffin was because my agent of chaos had cut all my money off. I had to get a job in a bar. And I remember one night I was working in this bar, and this guy come in. He'd just been let out of prison, actually. I think his next door neighbour, he'd offed his next door neighbour, and he'd just come out of prison. And he was chatting me up, you know. Just my type. And they all gravitate towards me. And my boyfriend had come in at the time and seen this, and he was rather jealous. And before we knew it, a fight had broken out. The guy goes out to get his sawn-off shotgun out of the back of the car, comes in waving it about. And yeah, that was kind of the beginning of the end.
Where did Captain Creepy come into the story?
Well, I'm single for a good while. Because I'm like, Jesus Christ, Doreen, you've got give it up. It's not working out for you, this dating malarkey, and you're just attracting all the wrong uns. So I took a break, but I was on a dating website. I did have a profile, but I would just nip in and out and just have a look, you know, dip my big toe in and out. And I comes across this guy, and I see him. He's messaged me quite a few times, but I'm not really that interested. And eventually I relent. And the next thing I know, he's got an engagement ring on my finger, and we're being married in Vegas.
The third marriage?
The third marriage.
How long did that take to materialise?
Yeah, he like the same with the sociopath, the engagement ring on my finger within a matter of weeks. That is the big red flag,
so
ladies.
This is the narcissist?
The narcissist, yes.
Right.
See, the narcissist is a very different personality type from the sociopath. We've got the psychopath, he's the predator. You won't see him coming. Then we have the sociopath, he's more like the con man. He wants access to your bank accounts and that because he needs to fund his lavish lifestyle because he's moving from city to city, you know, international playboy per se. And then we've got the narcissist, he's the diva, he's the playground bully. He's the bottom feeder of the personality disorders. So
after you got married in Vegas, you then come back to Britain, is that right?
Yeah.
And how was your life then? Was it red flags again right away?
It was red flags from the get-go. You know, I'd need all day to tell you about it, Jim, I really would.
Did it become abusive as well, and physically and mentally?
It was. I couldn't look at anybody, and I was, you're having sex with him, you're doing this, and, you know, it was just, you know, control all the time.
I know there was also an instant where, I hope you don't mind me saying, you were sexually assaulted by him.
Yes, on this occasion, I was physically, mentally, financially, and sexually assaulted by him, yeah. Mm-hmm.
How long were you in that relationship?
I was in that relationship I didn't last that long, a couple of years. And the good thing was he worked offshore, so he would go away at times. So I'd get saying that I never really got a break from him because even when he was offshore, it would be phone thingy all the time. And he never let up. It was constant barrage. And the final nail in the coffin was the window getting smashed.
That's right. So the incident, and
so
then
he had sexually assaulted me. I walked away. I'd reported it to the police. There was other women that he'd done it to. None of them would come forward and corroborate the story. He was arrested. He was absolutely furious. Came back, and I think he attacked me for daring to report him to the police. And then I packed my things and I left. And but I kind of left empty-handed, and I thought, I'll go back when he's not there and get all my belongings. And that's what happened. I went back and got my belongings, but I couldn't manage to get them all. So then I had to, and he'd come back from offshore, and he knew that I hadn't got all my belongings. And I think he'd phoned me. He says, "You haven't got all your belongings. You need to come round to the house and get them." So I go round to the house, and he smashes a window. Then he calls the police and he says, "I smashed the window." Of course, the police come and they arrest me because he's got a woman in the house with children. And of course, it's minors, isn't it? So no questions asked. I'm locked up. And I'm in this holding cell for a few days. And then I'm taken to the courthouse. I think it's on the Monday or the Tuesday. I think it was a bank holiday, so I'm in there an extra day. Just my luck. And I'm taken to the courthouse in this bulletproof van like Pablo Escobar. And then I come out of the courthouse, and there they all are, the press. Because they've followed my high-profile divorce for the 3.5 million divorce, and they're like, "What are you up to now? We've just got a tip off. We know what you've been up to." I'm like, "What have I been up to?" "You were out in Vegas and you did a live sex show." I'm like, What? Then it was all over the newspapers. I think it's on the back of me. Is it the stripper, the stripper, the madame? Because the woman he's got in there, she's a madame. Well, she was, running prostitutes out of Aberdeen. And the Vegas marriage, it was like Jeremy Kyle meets Jerry Springer kind of thing, television gold. So I think I go back. I'm sleeping on my daughter's floor. She's got a flat at this point. I'm kind of homeless because I've got nowhere to stay. And then I get a phone call from Cyprus.
The agent of chaos.
The agent of chaos. And he's like, "What the hell is this?" Like I says, it's like Jeremy Kyle meets Jerry Springer.
It's all over the media.
Yeah. He says, "Oh, it must be like living in a goldfish bowl." I says, "Just a bit, because it's a small town." He says, "You need to get away from there." So I leave the narcissist and go back to the sociopath.
You're kidding.
I mean, who does that?
Doreen.
Who leaves a sociopath, then marries a narcissist, and then leaves the narcissist and go back to the sociopath? My nervous system was wired for it. It was wired for it.
So did you go back to Cyprus, or did he come back to Britain?
I flew out to Cyprus. Yeah.
But I don't know where this story fits in, right? But it's such a big part of the story.
Yeah.
Because it's comical, but also, again, traumatic, getting arrested.
Mm-hmm.
The Megaphone story.
The Megaphone.
Because that is an absolute classic.
It is, yeah.
Who does that?
Well, obviously, when I separate from him and I've got this new boyfriend, Michael, and he's got wind of it, and the irony, he's shagging all these prostitutes left, right and centre. And I dare to get a boyfriend, dare in 20 years to get a boyfriend. Oh, that can't be doing that. So obviously, he cuts off my money. I haven't got anything, and I don't know how benefits work at this point, and living in the middle of nowhere. So I have to get creative, and I go on Amazon and I buy myself a Megaphone. And I go drives to his place of work, and I start protesting outside his place of work. And again, it's the press turn up, the police turn up with their Black Mariah. I'm handcuffed, taken away to the police station.
Again.
Fingerprinted, photo thingied, ID'd. They send in the man with the white coat. She's sane. Let her go home.
Was that the last time you were ever arrested?
I was arrested quite a lot of times.
Could never picture it, Doreen.
I know.
Such a character.
I know. I'm like, why am I always the one in handcuffs? I need to get that on a T-shirt.
I had to get the Megaphone story in because it's such a classic. I'm sure we'll put some photos up as well. I know it's on the cover of your book.
I know.
But moving on in the story, you go back to the sociopath, right? And I think...
I fly out to Cyprus to see the sociopath. I end up back in his bed.
And then it goes downhill from there.
It goes downhill from there.
What happens?
Well, what happened was, whilst, like I said, it was really chaotic getting a divorce from him, and he was going crazy because I've got this guy and he's flying back and forth from wherever he is, from whatever country he's in. And he kicks down the door on one occasion. He's back in the UK, threatening to kill me. The police come because they're now on speed dial. He's taken to the police station. They detain him. He's put in front of the judge. He's placed on bail. But then he skips the country. They let him go. They give him back his passport because he gives a fixed address for the UK. So, he's like this international fugitive at this point, but he's still in Abu Dhabi at this point. And he goes to, I think he steals about $1 million from the bank in Dubai. He sells his company 3 times to 3 different people. I know he's going downhill at this point, and he is. He's sold the company 3 times to 3 different people. He has American Express are after him for $1 million, and he skips the country and goes from Abu Dhabi to northern Cyprus. It's very chaotic. That's why I'm like, what did you do next? Sorry. So he's out in northern Cyprus with the underbelly. If you know northern Cyprus, this is where your underworld, your gangsters all get washed up, and he buys himself a bar with all this stolen money. And he's out there with his Russian prostitute girlfriend, who is now his wife. They've got a couple of kids. She's developed a drink problem, as you would, being married to him. She drinks the bar dry, starts drinking his aftershave. He locks her in the bedroom, as he would. She attacks him with the snooker cue, and he attacks her. Then the police are called in. Then he has to flee again. So he goes to the other side of Cyprus. That's where I meet him. That's where I go to meet him. And that's where he's living when I go out and hook up with him. And
for you to go back, it just shows you.
It's crazy. So like I said, I get back into bed with him. He tells me he's dying. That was another card he always pulled. I've got cancer, He was always dying. He was always using the cancer card. I was like, yeah, I've heard that one before. So he says, please get the charges dropped so I can come back to the UK and at least die on home turf. And I'm thinking about it, and I go back to the UK, even speak to my solicitor, and solicitor saying, don't be ridiculous. And then I'm thinking to myself, you are being ridiculous. This man's destroyed your life. Why would you even give him headroom, head in your head kind of thing? And then something jolted, and I phoned him up. I says, I'm not being part of this circus anymore. I don't want anything to do with this. He says, well, fuck you anyway. I'm coming back to the UK with or without your help. And I think he did come back to the UK about 4 or 5 months later, and he actually was dying.
And he eventually, maybe he spoke it into existence, but he eventually died.
He did die. He'd contracted hepatitis from prostitutes, and his immune system was shot with all the drink, the drugs, and the Viagra. He had a Viagra addiction as well. Took enough of that to fell a horse, and he had the hepatitis. But I'd got back into bed with him, and he'd infected me as well. And I thought I was ill. I was feeling ill, and felt like I had fibromyalgia. My legs were heavy, and I went to the doctors, and they tested me, and they says, well, there's good news and there's bad news. And they says, you have, yes, you did have hepatitis, but you no longer have it. Your immune system has fought it off. So I was lucky there for the grace of God to go aye. And he did die a good few months later after that. And even that was like a Tarantino movie. I think there was about 10 kids appeared out of the woodwork, you know.
What age was he when he passed away?
I think there was 12 years of difference between him and I. So
You could write a book about his story alone.
Yeah, I know.
And all the shit you had to put up with.
But he came from his chaotic background was very, very chaotic as well. He was abused as a child too by the father. So
that's what we find.
That set the precedent, you know.
Living his life in fight or flight and seeking validation out with himself.
Completely disassociated. And prostitutes was transactional, you know. There was no, you know.
No emotional attachment.
Emotion, no, nothing.
That's right. So after all of that, finally, the Agent of Chaos is gone. Agent of Chaos is gone. What happened to
Captain Creepy, the narcissist?
Yes, what happened to him?
He's still mulling about in the background, you know. I can't really get rid of him. He's threatening to kill me, but he's being very careful about it. He's not putting it out on social media. Then eventually he does. He puts it out on social media. The police get wind of it, and this is like, he's made the threat now. We're going to charge him, you know. So they charge him, and there's a court case, and I think he's placed on bail and whatnot, and there is a restraining order, and he hasn't to go anywhere near me. But yeah, there's in between that. He's obviously started seeing other women. I mean, I'm single. I mean, I've been single for the past 10 years. I've been completely put off of men. But he's obviously, with narcissists, you know, it's one in, one out kind of thing. And he starts seeing this woman, and she actually starts messaging me, and she's like, I'm seeing your ex. I'm like, okay, I'll pray for you then. And she says, was he okay with you? Was he abusive to you? I'm like, this is getting really weird. Really weird. And I blocked her. And I think after a few months, I found out she's taken her own life, because he's done to her what he's done to me. You know, abused her, took all her money, had her locked up. You know.
Poor girl ended up committing suicide.
Took her own life, and I believe there was another girl that took her own life as well.
That's crazy.
I know.
But going back to the present moment with your book.
Yes.
We know it's available on Amazon.
Yes.
The link will be in the description.
Yes.
Of this video.
It will indeed, yes.
It's such a fascinating story.
It is a fascinating.
Can I see the book over and I'll show the audience? As you can see behind Doreen, the cover is enlarged behind her, but also in front of me, this is the book here. I'm sure you won't be disappointed. It's such a blockbuster. And like we said at the start of the show, Doreen, there will also be, I can see it just now because you are such a character.
Yeah. There
will be a great TV show or movie in the near future, I'm sure.
Well, it'll need to be in a 6-7 parts.
Oh, definitely.
Oh, God, there's so much in it, yeah.
But I believe that you would be such a great narrator.
To tell the story.
Telling the story with the dark humour and all the chaos and the characters in it.
You will certainly need to lie down in a dark room after you've read it.
Definitely.
Because I take you on a roller coaster ride.
It's been an absolute honour having you on the show.
Thank you.
You're a real character, as I said.
Thank you for having me.
A lot of likeability.
Thank you.
I know we're now friends.
Yes.
I'm sure maybe we'll work on another project in the near future.
Uh-huh.
But before we finish up in this episode, if there is another message that you could send out. Do I have any
advice? I never give advice.
No advice. You could just another message, anything to do with your story or for women or anybody.
I never... a message to women, probably don't have a 5-year plan. Just probably a next step plan. And that's it, basically, you know.
That's like I said.
And I don't give advice to women that are in my situation, because trauma isn't linear and healing isn't linear, and it's not a one size fits all, is it? This kind of story. So, and anyone that ever comes to me, you know, I just hold space for them, and that's all you can do is support one another, isn't it?
That's it, Doreen.
There.
And like I said, I look forward to working with you again on other projects. I'm sure you'll be a massive hit with your book and your new TV show. So
thank you.
Thanks again. Shake my hand, Doreen. Just move that mic out of the way.
Okay.
There you go. Shake my hand. Thank you very much, right? It was a real honour.
Thank you, Jim.
And I'll see you again very soon.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.